Next, we have specification number 4. This part asks us to understand that discontinuous variation is usually controlled by genes only, while continuous variation is influenced by both genes and the environment. Discontinuous variation is mainly determined by genetic factors alone. In this type of variation, traits are fixed and fall into clear categories. Continuous variation, on the other hand, is influenced by both genetic factors and environmental conditions. This results in a range of gradual differences in traits rather than fixed categories. Continuous variation refers to traits that show gradual differences across a wide range. These traits do not fall into fixed groups but instead form a smooth progression from one extreme to another. They are influenced by many genes working together, as well as environmental factors. For example, body length or height and body mass or weight are controlled by inherited genes, but they are also affected by factors such as nutrition, health, and lifestyle. Because of this combined influence, individuals show many intermediate values and there are no clear boundaries between categories. In contrast, discontinuous variation includes traits that are divided into clear and separate groups with no intermediate forms. These traits are usually controlled by one or a small number of genes and are not strongly affected by the environment. Examples include blood groups, the ability to roll the tongue, and biological sex. In pea plants, traits such as seed size and seed shape also fall into distinct categories, where individuals belong to one specific group or another. However, it is important to understand that not all traits fit perfectly into just one category. Many characteristics in humans and animals show features of both types of variation. For instance, eye color and hair color may appear to have distinct categories, but they can also show a range of intermediate forms due to the combined effects of multiple genes and environmental influences. This shows that variation in living organisms is often complex and cannot always be strictly classified into only two types. Now let us compare continuous variation and discontinuous variation. In terms of definition, continuous variation refers to traits that show a range of small and gradual differences. In contrast, discontinuous variation refers to traits that are divided into distinct categories with no intermediate forms. When we look at genetic control, continuous variation is usually controlled by many genes working together, which is known as polygenic inheritance. Discontinuous variation, on the other hand, is usually controlled by a single gene or a small number of genes. Environmental influence is strong in continuous variation, meaning the environment plays an important role along with genes. In discontinuous variation, environmental influence is minimal, and traits are mostly determined by genes. For examples, continuous variation includes traits such as height, weight, skin color, and fruit size. Discontinuous variation includes blood groups, tongue rolling ability, biological sex, and pea seed shape. In terms of graphical representation, continuous variation is shown as a bell-shaped curve because it forms a smooth range of values. Discontinuous variation is shown using separate bars or categories because the traits fall into distinct groups. Finally, in terms of heritability, continuous variation is influenced by both genes and environment, while discontinuous variation is mainly determined by genes alone. Now it is clear that discontinuous variation and continuous variation are two different types of variation with distinct features. Discontinuous variation refers to differences that fall into clear, separate categories with no intermediate forms. Examples include blood groups, eye color categories, and the ability to roll the tongue. This type of variation is mainly caused by genes only. It is controlled by a small number of genes, usually a single gene or a few genes. Environmental factors generally do not influence these traits. Common examples include ABO blood groups, yes or no traits such as tongue rolling ability, and seed shape in peas such as round or wrinkled. In contrast, continuous variation refers to characteristics that change gradually over a range of values, often forming a normal distribution. Examples include height, weight, and skin color. This type of variation is caused by a combination of genes and environmental factors. It is controlled by many genes working together, known as polygenic inheritance. The environment also has a strong influence, for example nutrition affecting height. Common examples include human height, body mass, skin color, and leaf length. To summarize the differences, discontinuous variation is caused by genes only, has a monogenic or few gene basis, is not affected by the environment, and shows distinct categories such as blood groups and tongue rolling. Continuous variation is caused by both genes and environment, has a polygenic basis, is strongly influenced by environmental factors, shows a continuous range or spectrum, and includes traits such as height, mass, and skin color.